In this part, let's understand what heat maps are and how they can be useful. In the last part, we started off with the text table and then covered highlight table and compared the two. Now in this part, let's understand heat maps and then we'll take a look at all the three items. The simple table with no colors, nothing, traditionally whatever we are used to seeing before Tableau, and then with the addition of color, and then heat map, which one will convey what message better and when to use under what circumstances. So let's get into Tableau. So now here is the superstore data with just 4 years of data for category and subcategory wise sales. There's a lot of marks here. As you can see down, you can see 68 marks here. There's a lot of information. So if this is the report that you are used to seeing, and then I ask you these following questions. So the first question is, which category is generally best, right? The biggest one, right? So this is not very clear. We need to go through each of these numbers. So it takes a lot of time. Second, is there a trend, right? So are there some categories which are growing, some categories which are actually on the decline? Can we see this? And then are there categories which are really top performers, and then there are things that are really bottom performers? These kind of information is what people, when they look at this kind of a table, these are the different questions they ask. So in the last section we looked at how a highlight table can highlight and answer some of these questions. Now let's get into a heat map which can answer these questions. Now focus on this. Let's try to answer these questions. Which category is very important, right? Very quickly we can see this office supplies has a lot of dots, small dots, so it's not really very material. And then if I look at, then furniture has 4 subcategories, technology has 4 subcategories, and they are bigger. So it seems like both technology and furniture are actually important for us. And then if I focus within technology, I could see the chairs is the biggest one, and it is consistently bigger except in 2015. So there seems to be a problem for chairs in 2015. Maybe it had a broken leg. Then if you come to technology, as we guess, phones, they are always the favorite, right? That's the one that makes us lose mindfulness, and then so make us waste a lot of our time. So no doubt that technology is on the uptick, right? And then copiers, yes, they are growing, though they are not the biggest ones. They are growing. Accessories are also growing. Machines, they started off big, but then they seem to have a up and down thing. So sometimes they're working, sometimes they're not working stuff. So all these questions about what is growing, what is not growing, and what is big, what is small, a lot of these questions are answered without actually even looking at one specific value. That's the beauty of heat map. This is something that I'm really in love with, this concept called heat map. I was introduced to this in when I was in KPMG Consulting, one of the big fours, where we had to present a lot of information to executives so that they could quickly take things away. Their attention span and the time given to us as management consultants was often very small. So I was using heat maps quite a bit in PowerPoint, not in Tableau. This is many years, almost 10 years now. But then once I came into the world of Tableau, what took me many hours to create was possible just in a matter of a few seconds sometimes. This is just amazing. So this same power is available to you. So when to use a heat map? To me, I use a heat map when there are a lot of values. Just think of a table with literally lots of values. Here 68, you could have 100, you could have 500, does not matter. All of that could get compressed in just one screen. Really, that is the power of heat map. When you have, for example, I was asked to present budget in an organization which has a lot of budget lines, lot of categories, and then I used heat map. All of those lines, everything was on a single page. I fit with so that everything fits, and then very quickly we could see which ones were the bigger ones. What I also did in that case was to take this and then put it on color as well. So then the biggest one, and then I used brighter colors. So for example, I used something like, let's say, red and green. So let's apply. The bigger ones are green, but I actually want a reverse one. So the bigger ones should be standing out. So I use something like this. right? So in a table screen full of numbers, that's confidential data, I could not show it to you here, but a screen full of numbers, but then the biggest ones are almost, they are shouting, the red ones, the eyes are drawn towards there. What I was quite happy was the executives in charge, they immediately understood the value of this, because they were used to getting this pivot table where there were a lot of these values and then they painfully go through each one. This whole budget review process used to take a very long time. Now that was reduced to very, very quickly, probably even days or even less than that, by the use of just one simple chart. So to me, heat map is one of my favorites. I use heat maps quite a bit, and there are so many innovative ways to use heat map. The secret that I would share with you is use heat map whenever you have too many values to show. That's the formula that I use. Now let's compare this. Let me just undo these fancy colors that I've put. Maybe this is fine. And then let's compare these three representations by, let me bring the dashboard a little bit and then put this in between. So let me disconnect and then rearrange this, and then I will connect back. Now I have all the three, and then in the middle is heat map. Just look at these three representations. Definitely the text table on the left does not help us to get any information quickly, does not help us to focus on any message. Whereas on the right highlight table, it does help us to get into focus on the top and the bottom, but something is growing or on the decline, this is not easily visible. Once we take the numbers out of the picture, completely out, and then all we could see are just sizes of the squares, then all the messages become much more clear. So you could compare this, and then you could see. Then the typical objection I have is, you have taken all these numbers away, how do I get them? If you are using Tableau, this is very simple. So you have this, so I hover over on this on demand, I can look at any of these values. The other option, if you are especially going to send this by PDF or as a printout thing, is to have both the representation. Start with the heat map to give a overall big picture and a right brain quick, like a picture is worth 1,000 words. Get a quick impression here, and then drill into detail in a plain table itself. Yeah. So now you understand my priority and preference. So always heat map if you have a lot of data backed up by a plain table as and when needed, especially if you don't have Tableau, and then highlight table only if you want to highlight the bigger and smaller ones without highlighting the relationship in terms of how things are growing or not. Hope you got a lot of value out of understanding how heat maps and highlight tables enhance the message of table. In the last part in the series, let's get back to something very simple, which is, if we take a table like this, how do we create this in Tableau? I've covered one way or a couple of ways in different videos. So now in one video, I want to go through a number of options are there to create a table in Tableau, and I want to cover all of them, almost 4 or 5 of them, and then see which one is more efficient so that you can understand